Today I'm going to be doing my full review of the EvoCharge 50 amp electric vehicle charger. This is the second generation charger out of EvoCharge. About 2 years ago, I reviewed their first generation unit, which was a plug-in unit and offered up to 40 amps of charging power. The new unit is a hardwired unit and it can deliver up to 50 amps. It also has some other improved features, which we'll be getting into shortly. But first, let's open up the box and see what comes inside. All right, well, let's see what we have here. We have the body of the unit, the cable, and the connector. That's all one piece. We've got the mounting bracket. This goes on the wall, and the body of the unit kind of slides into it, and then you use this one screw on the bottom to tighten it to the bottom of the unit. We'll go into that next. The two screws to mount this on the wall, but you notice that there's a bunch of holes. Unless you're certain that you've landed these on a wooden stud, I would probably use 4 screws just to be safe. The 2 screws here are for the remote connector holster. It's a plastic one-piece connector holster. The first generation EvoCharge charger had a 2-piece unit. It was kind of odd the way they did that, and I see they've simplified things with a single piece here, and you could mount this wherever you want in the garage because it's a remote connector holster. And then we have this quick start guide here. We've got labels for your service panel, your circuit breaker labels, so you could label the appropriate power that the unit's going to be drawing. And this is the full installation guide here. Okay, here's the unit. Really simple. Seems like it's simple installation. I think this guy here is going to slide. This is going to mount against the wall like this, and then this slides in these grooves in the back. Let me see here. There we go. It goes in these grooves. You see it's attached. And then you mount this one little screw on the bottom here. You screw it into the body of the unit and it holds on. So that's how it gets mounted to the wall, which we're going to do in a minute. But first, let's take a look at the EvoCharge's key features. State of Charge is powered by ChargerRatre, North America's premier installer of electric vehicle charging equipment. After I've helped you decide which charger to buy, follow the link in the description of my videos and have ChargerRatre install it. And if you do follow that link, ChargerRatre will waive the $150 installation deposit. But this is an exclusive offer for State of Charge followers. So in order to get that offer, you must follow the link in the description of my videos. The unit costs $539. The dimensions are 13.8 inches by 9.7 inches by 3.5 inches. It's a 50 amp unit that can deliver up to 12 kilowatts. The power output is adjustable from 16 amps up to the 50 amp limit. It has a 25-foot long cable. You could order it with either the J1772 or J3400 or NACS connector. It has a NEMA 4 rated enclosure. It does offer access control through the app. The operating temperature is negative 22 degrees Fahrenheit to 122 degrees Fahrenheit. It is UL listed, comes standard with a 3-year warranty, but you can purchase an extra 2 years if you order it directly through the EvoCharge website, and that costs $150. However, on occasion, when EvoCharge runs specials, they often throw in the extra 2 years. So if you're in the market for one of these, keep an eye out for their offerings and you might be able to get a 5-year warranty without paying anything extra. And the unit is made in the USA. All right, now as for installation, you first have to install the mounting bracket on the wall here with the opening on the bottom. That opening is actually because you can power the unit through the back here, or through the bottom. These are the 2 locations that you could bring your power in. There's a plastic knockout plug here. So if you do use the rear entry to wire it, you can pull this knockout plug in and then fit it in here. The openings are the same, so you'll have that. You don't have to purchase a plug for this. Either way you install it. It's a cleaner installation when you bring your power directly through the wall into the back. I always prefer that. It just looks better. It doesn't function any better, but it just looks better. Okay, this is mounted on the wall. We have the connector holster on the wall here, and the way you install the unit then is to slide it over the top of the bracket. Let me make sure I got it in there. and it comes down. Then you need to have a Torx T10 driver because there's a little screw on the bottom of the mounting bracket here that you have to screw that in, and that secures it to the mounting bracket. Right now, you could just slide it up and down. That keeps it nice and tight. Okay, let me bring this over here, hang up the connector. The one thing I noticed, cable's very thin. We're gonna measure the thickness in a minute, but very thin cable that seems flexible. It should do good in the cold weather test, but we'll see. The connector itself, it's a very small connector. It doesn't feel great in my hands. Don't love this connector. It also notice that it has a plastic locking tab here. And the plastic ones are more prone to break when you drop them. Although it does have a little guide here on the top that protects it. If it falls, you really have to almost land perfectly to break it. But as far as connectors go, not in my top half of the connectors. I don't think this is a really great connector. But in any event, connector holster, I kind of feel the same way about. It's kind of flimsy, a little cheap. And I also noticed that when I push this in, it locks, but a couple times I did that. I pushed it in all the way and it fell out. You really have to push it in and then, see, look, I think it's in. It's up against the end, but it falls out. You have to really push it in and make sure you push it up so that it locks. Otherwise, the tab doesn't lock. It's not the best connector and holster combination by a long shot. So we'll ding it a little bit in the ChargerRatre for that. So, okay, this is how the unit looks. I actually like it. Nice, stylish unit. It doesn't come off the wall that much. It's only, I think, 3.5 inches dimension-wise off the wall, which is nice. It's kind of big, though, but that's okay. I think it looks nice, kind of a sleek look. It's got the LED light here. That is a status indicator. We'll go over that a little bit later, exactly what the different colors mean. But other than that, here's the unit. Next up, we're going to open her up and see exactly what's going on inside there. And I can show you how the qualified licensed electrician will hardwire the unit. The unit must be hardwired. It doesn't come available in a plug. This is a hardwire only unit. And we'll take a look inside on how it gets hardwired and also how you would dial down or even up the power output for the unit. And to do that, to open her up, first you have to remove this outer plastic case. There's 2 screws on the outer edge here that, again, you need a Torx T10 driver to loosen up. And once that cover is off, there's 6 screws underneath that have to be removed. But for those, you need a Torx T25 driver to loosen those up. Okay, with the cover off, we can see inside. So you have your rear knockout here and the lower knockout here, and that's very convenient because this is where the 3 wires get landed right here. So either way, you've got like 2 inches and you're landing your wires. So that's really easy there. And to adjust the power up or down, and I say up or down because out of the factory, it comes set to deliver 48 amps. That's what most people charge at. It's what many electric vehicles today are limited to take 48 amps, but the unit can actually deliver 50 amps. You can get 2 more amps out of that if for some reason you have one of the electric vehicles that can accept more power. There's not a lot of them on the market, but there's a few that can take more power than 48 amps. If you want it to deliver 50 amps, now you need to also wire it on a higher powered circuit. At 48 amps, it could be on a 60 amp circuit. But if you want just those 2 more amps, you've got to go to a 70 amp or 80 amp circuit. So the cost probably isn't worth getting those 2 extra amps, and it's going to cost a lot more. It's going to be thicker wire, a more expensive breaker for your panel. So I probably wouldn't advise doing that. But if you have money to burn and you want every amp that you can get, have at it. And to do that, now you need to adjust the dip switch, which is, it's actually hard to find. It's right above this shiny screw here in the back. So there's a dip switch there that you adjust. It comes factory set to deliver 48 amps, but you could set it up to 50 amps. You could also dial it all the way down to 16 amps. And in the installation guide, it tells you which dip switch setting you need to have it set at in order to have the appropriate output. And this is the only place you can adjust the output. Some of the chargers have an internal dip switch that limits the amount of power that the unit can put out. It's a hard cap on the amount of power that the unit will pull it out because that's appropriate for the circuit it's installed on. But then in the app, it allows you to lower it even more. So if some nights you want to charge slower for whatever reason, and there are reasons to charge your electric vehicle slower on different occasions, you can do that. The EvoCharge app doesn't allow for that. This is the only place here where you can actually set the output current. You can't then dial it down even further in the app. So understand when you install it, that's what you're going to be charging at, unless you have an electric vehicle that allows you to dial down the power it takes in. Not many of the cars today can do that, but there's a few out there that can. Okay, so let me get this thing wired up and then we'll continue the review. All right, so the unit is wired up and I've actually been using it for the past few days to charge my 4 different electric vehicles, and it's worked just fine. I actually do like this nice thin cable. It's very easy to manage. It reminds me a lot of the Tesla wall connector cable. It might even be the same cable. EvoCharge might have sourced it from the same supplier because it feels the same and the thickness is just about the same. I measured this to 14.5 millimeters, which is a very thin cable and it's very flexible. I've gotten used to the connector. As I mentioned earlier, it's not one of my favorite connectors, but it's fine. There's nothing wrong with it. It's actually doesn't feel as cheaply made as I originally said on my first impressions. I still don't like the fact that the tab is plastic, but it feels okay and it's rather heavy in my hand. I just prefer the connectors to have a rubberized grip and just feel a little bit better. My thoughts haven't changed on the connector holster. This is a poor connector holster. A couple of times I put it in and it didn't stick just like there and it flopped out and landed on the ground. So I've already had the connector do a couple unofficial drop tests and it's held up, but it's definitely an improvement over their first generation. The fact that now it can deliver up to 50 amps is definitely a plus. I mentioned earlier that it has this LED light status bar on the front of the charger. If you go onto the EvoCharge site, you can look up what each color and whether it's blinking or solid means. It can be green, white, blue, orange, yellow, and red, and the colors can either be blinking or solid. So it's a good idea to print this thing up online from the EvoCharge website and have it at the ready just in case a color comes up that you're not used to and you'll know exactly what that means. And the EvoCharge Home 50 is a Wi-Fi connected smart charger. It comes with the EvoCharge app. And through the app, you can do things like set schedules, review your past charging history. It's not a super feature-packed app though. One thing I noticed that it doesn't show is the real-time power draw in kilowatt or the line voltage. Some of the apps tell you what the voltage is on your line and exactly how much power is going into the vehicle at real time. This app doesn't show that. It does show how many kilowatt hour ends up in the vehicle during that specific charging session and all the past charging sessions, and also how much it costs to charge if you put your local electricity rate in there. So it'll figure all that in and also keep detailed records of it so you can look back and say, okay, it cost me $53 this month to charge my car or whatever. So that's good, but it's pretty much a basic app. It doesn't have tons of features that I've seen in some of the other apps, but that most people don't use anyway. It's really important to be able to do what this app can do, and that's set schedules and review past charging sessions and history tied to your electricity rate so you know exactly how much it's costing you to charge your EV. It also allows you to have access control. If the charger is mounted in a public place, say not in my private garage here, and you don't want just anybody to be able to pull in and charge, you can set the charger through the app to not just immediately start charging. You could set it so that when you plug in, you still have to open your app and swipe it to start a charging session. You could also swipe it to end a charging session. So if the charger is located in your private garage like this, you wouldn't need that. You would set it so that you plug it in and it immediately starts charging, or is on a time of use schedule that you set. But if it is in a parking lot, like an apartment building, condo complex, and other people could say use it when you're not around, you can set it through the app so that it won't just start charging unless you open the app and swipe it. You can also set it so that you can give access to up to 5 other people. So that's good. Also, you might share the charger, say with a neighbor that also has an EV, and the two of you put it in and you're going to split the bill. You can each have access to it and have full functioning through your apps. And it allows you to do that to up to 5 different users. Okay, now I'm going to begin the testing part of the review. And for that, we're going to start off with the cold weather testing. It's time for our cold weather testing. I put the EvoCharge in this freezer a little more than 24 hours ago. This is a deep freeze freezer. It gets well below 0 degrees Fahrenheit. We do this test to simulate if the charger was installed outside in a cold weather area. I want to see how flexible the cable is and also that the connector can withstand a couple of drops. So let's first check how cold it is in there. Negative 14.5 degrees Fahrenheit, so good and cold. Now I have high hopes for the EvoCharger's cable because it's a really thin cable. We talked about that earlier. Typically the thinner cables, even if they're stiff, are easy to manage because they're easy to bend. The thicker cables have to be really pliable when they're frozen. Otherwise, they're just a bear to work with, and it could make living with your charger on a daily basis during the winter months very inconvenient if you have to fight the cable every time you plug your vehicle in and unplug it. So let's see how this guy works. As you can see, I wrap the cables up in small loops. Now we're going to unravel it and see how well it is to manage. Okay. Now, as you can see, it's coiled up in these tiny loops, but it's not fighting me to remain in those loops. It's actually, see this? That's great. This is going to get a very good score for cold weather performance on the cable. Up near the top of the best scoring cold weather cables that we've had here. So let me unravel it a little bit, hang it up on the connector holster. See how easy this is to work with? It's not fighting me, and you can see all the, I don't know if you can see this, there's all frost coming off of it. So this is what you want to see. See this floppiness? It's not stiff. Some of the chargers, I can hold it up like this, and it'll stand up straight with the connector there. That's a bear to deal with when you're plugging and unplugging your vehicle in the winter. So this is going to get a really good score. Okay, while we're here and it's frozen, we'll do the connector drop test. With this test, I dropped the connector 5 times from about waist high while the connector's good and frozen. You can see the frost on it. So this guy's cold. You drop your connector from time to time if you plug in your electric vehicle. And if you drop it on the hard pavement, we want to make sure it can hold up to at least a few drops. So let's try this out. That wasn't good because it landed on the cable. There's one. Two. Three, that was a good one. Four. Five. All right, so it weathered that just fine. It's a little bit of scratches on it, but other than that, it works fine. The connector locking mechanism still lifts up and retracts, so it's working just fine. And that'll be a pass on the connector drop test and a very good pass on the cable deep freeze performance test. It's time for the automatic restart test. With the automatic restart test, I plug in one of my electric vehicles. I have my Rivian R1S here charging at the full 48 amps the EvoCharge can deliver, and I shut the power off. Actually throw a switch from my disconnect here in the garage, leave it turned off for about a minute, and then turn it back on. What I want to make sure is that after the power interruption, the charger re-engages the vehicle and continues charging. This is to simulate a power outage. Let's say you were charging overnight and you're sleeping and you had a power outage for a minute or so, or it really doesn't matter how long it is. Once power is restored, you want the charger to immediately re-engage with the vehicle and start charging it again. Otherwise, you're gonna wake up and your vehicle won't be charged. Now, most vehicles pass this test, but we have found some that for whatever reason remain in a fault state, and the vehicle doesn't continue charging once power is restored. So I'm going to throw the switch now. We're going to shut power off. I'm going to wait about a minute and then turn it back on. Let's see how she does. Okay, power's off. You can see the EvoCharge flash some green lights. It was pulsing blue before. That means it was actively charging. Now I'm going to wait about a minute, which I will time lapse so you don't have to stand here and watch me stare at you for a minute. All right, so a little bit more than a minute has passed. I'm going to turn the unit back on now, and let's make sure that it re-engages with the R1S and continues charging. Okay, we've got some green pulsing lights here as the unit powers up. And I don't think it's going to work now. The Rivian has its red circle around the charge port indicating that it has an issue. And I use the Rivian R1S in most of these automatic restart tests, and I've never had it not work with any of the chargers yet. So let's give this a few more seconds, but if it doesn't work, I'm going to pull my Chevrolet Equinox in, repeat the test with that, just to make sure it wasn't a Rivian issue. But right now it looks like this is not working. It's not re-engaging and it's charging the vehicle. And yeah, it still has the red ring around the charge port, which indicates that it has some sort of a problem. So I'm gonna wait a few more seconds here. Maybe it'll clear, but if it doesn't, I'm gonna pull in the Equinox, plug it in, and we'll repeat the test. All right, I'm back faster than I thought I was. Literally about 5 seconds after I shut off the camera, I heard a click over on the charger. I looked at it and it was blinking blue. So I walked around and checked the charge port, and yes, the Rivian is charging. So it does pass the automatic restart test. It just takes a little bit longer than what most of the other chargers take. Some of the chargers literally are charging like within 3 seconds. As soon as power is restored, boom, it connects. For whatever reason, these two guys were talking back and forth for a little bit. Rivian didn't like what it was receiving at first, and it was faulting red, but after a few seconds, probably about a solid 2.5 minutes, the vehicle started charging again. So that's fine. It can take a couple of minutes. It doesn't really matter as long as it re-engages and starts charging. So that's a pass on the automatic restart test. It's time for the extreme heat test. I've had this heat lamp baking on the EvoCharge for 2 hours now, maintaining a surface temperature of about 120 degrees. So let's take a look at where we're at right now. Let me get a good... It's actually 125.5. So after 2 hours of maintaining around 120 degrees, I'll now plug in my Rivian R1S, leave the heat lamp on the EvoCharge, and charge for 2 hours. What I want to see is that the unit delivers the full amount of power for the full 2 hours. It doesn't derate, it doesn't shut off, any of that stuff, just to make sure that even if this is mounted outside in an area that gets very hot, doesn't get more than 120 degrees anywhere here in the US, but if, well, there might be a few areas in the desert, but I don't think anybody lives there. If this is mounted outside and the direct heat is baking on it, it gets really hot in the summer, we want to make sure that it doesn't either shut off or derate. We've seen that with some units, that they just overheat and just shut off. Now, the operating temperature of this goes up to 122 degrees, but that's the ambient temperature, which is why I try to replicate around 120 degrees here. I'm actually a little bit above for this test, just a couple degrees, shouldn't matter. The unit itself is going to get much hotter than that and will under normal charging circumstances. The innards get hot just during the charging process to begin with. So this is probably going to get much hotter than 120 degrees. After 2 hours of charging, I'll take the temperature of the front of the unit, and we'll also make sure that it delivered the full amount of power. So let's plug in the R1S now, and I'll come back in 2 hours and we'll see how she's done. Okay, so it's 2 hours later and I've been monitoring the Rivian. It has been accepting the full 48 amps for 2 hours. So it's going to be a big pass for the extreme heat test. And let's see how warm the unit is up right now. The surface temperature is 150.3 degrees. That's because during this charging session, not only did we have the heat baking on the outside, but the inside was warming up from the fact that a lot of energy was passing through it. This is normal. Around 150 degrees is kind of normal what I see when I do these tests and run them for 2 hours. So EvoCharge passes the extreme heat test. Okay, so the EvoCharge Home 50 passed all of our tests, and I've been using it for a while now to charge all my electric vehicles, and it's performed flawlessly. I do like this unit. I particularly like the cable. It has a really nice thin cable that's super easy to manage. The connector holster isn't a very good connector holster. If I were to use this as my daily charger, I'd probably pick up a third-party connector holster online. There's plenty of them available that you can buy for really cheap, like under $20. But I think this would bother me for a while. And let me show you why. If you notice, the opening for the connector holster is exactly the same size as the J1772 connector. So you have to be perfect when you put it in. If you're not perfect, you'll hit the side. You have to kind of slowly put it in. Sometimes, it's late at night, you're tired, maybe your garage isn't really well lit. I think this would bother me a lot. Besides the fact that if you don't put it all the way in, if it looks like it's in now, it falls out. Take a look at this connector holster next to here. That's from the Grizzle E United Chargers. See how wide this opening is compared to this? You almost can't miss. No matter where you put the connector, it just locks in. You don't have to be perfect. You could even come in from the side like this and just stick it in and it holds. You can't do that with a connector holster like this. All you're gonna do is get this. So I know it's a little thing, but when you live with an electric vehicle, particularly your first one, you're going to be plugging in probably every day when you come home. That's a good policy to just top off every night so you're always ready the next day. So you're going to be using the connector holster twice a day, once to unplug, once to plug in. That's a lot of interaction with it. So you want something that works really well and is really easy to use, and you don't want to have to be perfect. You might be carrying something and you're reaching to stick it in. If you got to push it in a couple times or it flops down, if it keeps landing on the ground on your garage floor, it's going to break it. I've dropped this thing during this review, falling out of this, not putting it in, even though I know I have to push it in harder 4 or 5 times already. And it's held up, but eventually it's going to break if that keeps happening. So that's really a miss there. And it's really an unforced error because it's such an inexpensive, cheap item that EvoCharge should have made a bit better connector holster. And hopefully at some point in the future they will. But other than that, the charger itself works great. I really like it. I like the fact that it has access control. So if it's in a public place, you can enable that in the app that you have to swipe to charge. As far as the app goes, you do have to use the EvoCharge app. I didn't see any instructions in the manual to say you can direct the charger to a third-party app. So it's going to lose some points in the ChargerRatre for that. But other than that, worked great. So this is going to go on our recommended charger list for sure. And it also comes from a reputable company. EvoCharge has been around for a while. It's not some fly-by-night company that you never heard of, and they're going to be out of business next year. They actually have a lot of their charging equipment out on the market. And I also like the fact that they will give you that 5-year warranty if you pay. It's $149 if you buy it from the EvoCharge website, and that would give you a 5-year warranty. It comes standard with the 3-year warranty. But I also noticed that they frequently use that as an incentive when they run a special. They might not discount the price, but they say we throw in the extra 2-year warranty, which if you could find it when they're running one of those specials and grab it with a 5-year warranty, do it, because that's really a great, nice, long warranty on it to have. Most of the chargers in the industry today have 3-year warranties. Getting that extra 2 years, I think, would be really super if you can time it just when you need a charger when they're running the special. Okay, so next up, we're going to do our scoring. I need to talk a little bit about this first before we jump into the ChargerRatre, which we do first. I've completely redesigned the ChargerRatre, and the scoring is going to be lower than it previous was. And I'll explain why. I've been doing these reviews for a few years now, and the charging equipment that was on the market 7-8 years ago is completely different than what we're seeing today. What we're seeing today is much higher quality, much more feature packed. And what happened was, as the chargers got better and better, their scoring got higher and higher, to the point where almost all the chargers I reviewed were getting scores in the 90s. So I've made it a lot tougher. And unfortunately for EvoCharge, they're the first ones with the new charging rule. So if you see their score and then you look at another charger I reviewed a month or two ago, you'll say, oh, wow, that charger must be much better. It scored a lot better on the ChargerRatre. But unfortunately, I have to start somewhere. I've been thinking about this for a while, and I have a total new scoring system. And this is going to be the first unit that gets held under that microscope. It's much tougher, and the score is going to be lower. I am going to go back and rescore some of the chargers that I reviewed recently in the past year or so, and update their ChargerRatre, not on the videos because I can't edit the videos once they're done, but I will on my website, evchargingstations.com, so that you will be able to compare the chargers fairly. And the ones that aren't, I'll put a little note next to it, old scoring system. So, but this was a long time coming, and it really is because the equipment has gotten better. There's features now that weren't even available 3 or 4 years ago. So I had to completely redesign the ChargerRatre, which we're going to look at now for the EvoCharge. Okay, we'll start off with the cost and value category. It gets 2 points for cost because it costs less than $550. For the warranty, the standard warranty is 3 years. You get 1 point for each year, so it only gets 3 points there. And for value, it's not getting any points because for the cost and what the unit offers, I think this is an average value. It's going to end up with 20 points for the cost and value category. Okay, we'll go to the power and construction category. For maximum charging power, it gets no points. This would have scored extra points on the previous ChargerRatre because that was based on a 40 amp charger being the average charger. Today, almost every new charger that comes on the market is 48 or 50 amps. So that's the new baseline. No points in the first line. For adjustable power, it's going to get 1 point because you can adjust the power with the internal dip switch. Now, EvoCharge told me you'll also be able to adjust the power in the app in like 2 or 3 weeks. There's going to be a new app update, but I can't give it the point for that because it's not available now. And for connector, this is a new line item that gets scored between 0 and 5 points. I gave it 3 points, and I think I was a little liberal with that. I really should have gotten like 2.5 points, but I'm not going to give half points. It gets 3 points there. For connector holster, this is where it gets hit hard. It only gets 1 out of 5. So it's going to finish the power and construction category with 22 points. Okay, the testing category. The extreme cold weather testing, it's going to get 4 points out of 5. The cable performed extremely well in the test, so it nearly gets a perfect score in that category. For the extreme heat test, it gets no points because there's no issue. You don't get any points in this category. You can only lose points. For the automatic restart test, it's going to get 1 point. For safety certified, it is safety certified, it's UL certified. You don't get points for that. You can only lose points. It gets no points. Energy Star certified, it is Energy Star certified, so it's going to get a point there and finish the testing category with 21 points. for intelligence. Yes, it is a smart charger that comes with an app, so it gets 2 points. It is not power share capable, so it gets no points. It does not have intelligent load management, so it gets no points there. And as far as access control, it's going to get 1 point because it can do that through the app. Some of the chargers also offer you an RFID card that someone can swipe. This doesn't, so it's app only, it gets 1 point. For OCPP standardization, it's going to lose 2 points because it only pairs with the EvoCharge app. So it's going to finish the intelligence category with 16 points. And that's going to give the EvoCharge Home 50 a grand total of 79 points. And when we convert the ChargerRate's 79 points to a 5-star rating, the EvoCharge Home 50 gets 3.95 stars out of 5. Now, under the previous ChargerRate scoring system, it would have gotten around 4.85 stars out of 5. And I think that shows that the new ChargerRate point system works, because this should be rated about 4 stars out of 5. It's a very good unit. It's going to be a recommended unit as far as I'm concerned. I think it's a nice, solid unit, but there are features and things it could do better. It could have a better connector holster. It could have intelligent load management. It could be power sharing capable. So there's points that it left on the table that could have given it a higher score. And I think 4 stars out of 5, or 3.95 is what the ChargerRate gave it, is a fair score. And if I gave it my own personal score, I would be right around 4 stars out of 5. So I think the ChargerRate nailed it on this one. Okay, well, all that's left is to go over my hits and misses. Okay, we'll start off with the hits. It has a great cable for daily use and also for cold weather use. It performs very well. Has a sleek design. I like how it looks. I like the fact that it's only about 3.5 inches deep. It doesn't come off the wall a lot. And I do like the fact that this unit is made in the USA. Not much electric vehicle charging equipment is currently made in the USA, so that's a good feature. Next up, the misses. The connector holster. I don't need to talk more about that. I think I've already talked about it enough. The fact that it cannot power share. More and more of the chargers that come to the market today can power share between multiple units. You can have just one circuit come into your garage and have 2 chargers if you have 2 EVs. This unit cannot currently do that. And also the fact that the app lacks some information. It's a real basic app. I like to see things like the line voltage and also the real-time kilowatt draw that's coming to your electric vehicle. You don't get that with the EvoCharge app. Well, that's all we have here today for the full review of the EvoCharge Home 50. It's a solid unit at a reasonable price, so it will be added to our recommended charger list. If you want to purchase the EvoCharge Home 50, I'll have links in the description of this video to purchase it from Amazon and also directly from the EvoCharge website. Now, my complete reviews are long, and if you're still here, you're a champ, because you're probably about 45, 50 minutes in. But what I started doing is producing these quick charge reviews, I call them, which are 10 to 12 minute compressed reviews of this review. I take all the key points out of it, compress it down to 10 or 12 minutes, so people that want to watch my reviews but don't have nearly an hour to do so can get it all in about 10 minutes. That video is going to come up in a couple of weeks, and if you're cross-shopping a bunch of different chargers and you don't want to watch 45-minute reviews for each one, you could check out my quick charge review playlist and watched all the reviews in a much compressed form. Well, that's all I have here today. Listen, if this is your first time here at State of Charge, please hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell so you don't miss any upcoming electric vehicle news and reviews. And as always, thanks for watching.